Hi folks, Wooden Boat Dan here. It is, what is it? April something, 20th or 21st? It's a Friday, 2023. I'm long overdue on the peeler update. So I thought I'd give you one today. I think my last update I was talking about flipping the boat over, and I had a system I talked about where I was going to put straps on the boat, and I had purchased a block and tackle on Amazon for 30 bucks. And I had installed an overhead 4x4 tied into my trusses, which is right up there, if you remember. And I even bought a little swivel attachment there to hang my block and tackle on, and that thing's rated at like 1,100 pounds. I think people use them for a gym bag. So I was pretty excited about all that. I thought I really had things figured out. Well, sometimes things don't work out the way you think. So the boat was right side up, if you recall, and I put my straps on it, which were not real wide straps. Where are my little straps? I forget where I put those things. Let's see here. Where did I put my straps? Anyway, you don't need to see my straps, but they're 2 inches wide, approximately. So I placed 2x4s across the gunnels inside the boat, inside the boat to support the area where the straps were going to put pressure on the gunnels of the boat. And I put one for each strap in there, so 2 inside the boat. And then I hooked up my straps and I put my block and tackle up and I started to lift the boat. Well, there were two problems. First of all, the block and tackle said it was a 7-to-1 weight advantage. So on a 300-pound boat, it would be like lifting 45 pounds. Well, the block and tackle was a polyester rope, so it was a little slippery, and it felt like way more than 45 pounds. Felt like I was lifting 75 or 100 pounds, which isn't the end of the world. So I started to lift the boat up, and I lifted it so the weight had just shifted to the straps from the sawhorses that it was on. And then I put it back down, and I looked at the boat, and the straps had left some compression marks on the plywood on the outside of the boat. And in fact, in one place, they compressed it pretty hard and made a little dent, actually a pretty good sized dent in the side of the boat. So at that point, I scrapped the straps and the block and tackle. I returned the block and tackle to Amazon, and I decided to go the old manual route. So anyway, after all that fussing around, I still think that it can be done that way, but it's like, well, I know I can manually turn the boat over, and it's just going to be a simpler process. So I've got video that I'll show you after this talk here to show you how I turned the boat over. I basically raised one end of the boat at a time and shifted it off of the dolly onto sawhorses. And then from the sawhorses, I lowered one end at a time onto the ground. And then when it was on the ground, I laid a tarp and some soft padding next to the boat. My wife and I lifted the edge of the boat, tipped it up, and then she went the other side and we lowered the boat down, and then we moved the boat back over to where it was. And then I lifted one end at a time. We put it back up on sawhorses. So it was pretty high off the ground when it was on the sawhorses. So at that point, I actually was able to get under the boat with it upside down on my little stool. You can see my little stool way over there, I think. Yeah, you can see my little stool. So I was able to sit on that stool and get under the boat and put in my fillets on the bottom sides of the seats. because I had filleted all the top sides, but not the bottoms underneath. And that would have been a real pain to do laying in the boat upside down. So I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna attempt to go under the boat here and show you what I'm talking about so you can see. So here you can see the boat is right side, or I'm sorry, it is, yeah, it's bottom side up now. You can see here. So I'm going to take you under here and see if I can show you. So right now I have the boat back on the dolly. So for instance, so now here I'm under the boat and you can see this is the underside of the forward seat, and I had to put fillets around here and clear back over here and here. So I was able to do that in an upright position when I had it up on the sawhorses. And then I had to put fillets back along these seats and all the way around here, clear down to that end. You can see at the end there. So I had to do fillets all the way around here. So that was really nice to be able to do it sitting on my stool. Anyway, so yeah, so this is what the boat looks like underneath now when it's upside down. Anyway, I'm gonna get back out of here, crawl back from under the boat. It's pretty low now, so you can see I've got it up on the on my dolly, again, supported across the seats there, and I've supported along the front seat there. So anyway, back up here. So now, get some junk off the boat here so you can see what I got going. So now I'm working on the bottom. So the bottom has got to be all fiberglassed. So what I'm working on is, like for instance, the bottom of the boat, it's stuck over the transom here like 1/8 of an inch. So I had to trim that back and trim it back here where the doubler is. So I actually used my power sander for that. And now I'm rounding off my edges because these are all square to get those all smooth. And I'm filling my little stitch and glue holes. And I'm using a plastic wood fill for that, not epoxy, because they're very, very small and they're harder than the wood itself. And if I were to put epoxy there and then sand it off, the epoxy is so hard that you end up sanding, it's easy to sand into the wood. So you can see here, I'm just touching up a few real easy spots there. And I'm rounding over this doubler here because I got to put a fillet in here. And then up here at the nose, I got this doubler with a sharp point. So I'm probably going to have to shape that a little bit more to get it so I can get a piece of fiberglass cloth to lay over that. I might use biaxial cloth actually, which my friend Paul recommended, which I think that's a good idea. And then down here on the plans, this calls to fill this with epoxy and the glass stuff. What's that stuff called? Not micro balloons. I'll think of it here in a minute, but it's a real hard epoxy. But you know, I did the optional stem on this. You can see the stem down here. And I haven't shaped this. This is going to be shaped. But so what I'm going to do is put an outside stem on here that's going to be the depth of this here, which is, I don't know, 3/8 or 1/2 inch. And it's going to be about 1/2 inch wide across here. And it's going to go down and meet the stem here. And I'm going to nicely shape that and taper it. And then I'll glass over that once I have that in place. So anyway, so that's what I'm working on there. And I got to do a little, I got to take a little more off this doubler here and do a little more filling and touch up. Just got real small gaps here that I'll fill with some of the plastic wood and sand my, my puzzle joints a little bit more. So anyway, there you can see see a bigger picture of the bottom of the boat there. So yeah, so I haven't been working on the boat as much the last 2 or 3 weeks. I just kind of lost momentum actually, which it's funny in boat building, for me at least, I get all hot and heavy for a few months and then I just like have to kind of back off a little bit, take a little break, especially when I'm doing a lot of sanding. That kind of wears me out. And, but now I'm back on it, and I still have a goal of June 15th to finish this thing, but it's looking less realistic. But I'm gonna keep pushing and get as much done before then as I can, because that's our family camping, and it would really be fun to have it, but I don't know if that's gonna happen. So trying to think what other updates. So yeah, so I'm gonna get the bottom prepped, then I'm gonna glass the bottom. So I'll lay a 6-ounce fiberglass cloth over it, and the plans call to double the cloth at the chines, the outside chines, the corner of the boat, of the hull, and also over the doubler in the center of the boat. So that'll be 2 layers of cloth. So I'll get the cloth down with 3 coats of epoxy and sand it. And then I think at that point, I'm not sure if I flipped the boat over or not, but because I've still got, you can see these long panels up here, these long panels of kumi, these things here. Those go on the outside of the gunnels of the boat to reinforce that. So they're about this wide, so those are gonna go along here. So I'm not sure if I do that with the boat up or down, but I think the instruction manual tells you how to do that. So anyway, folks, I am making progress. I am having fun. I did take a little break. I hope you're out there building your boats, and also check out my podcast if you haven't. Hooked on Wooden Boats. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, other platforms. It's a lot of fun. I interview people in the wooden boat world. So that's it for now, and stay tuned though, because you're gonna see, oh, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 minute video after this that shows time lapse of my wife and I turning the boat over upside down. So anyway, Wooden Boat Dan over and out. God bless, take care. We'll talk again later. Bye-bye.